Next, we'd like to introduce to you Chris Hahn, an environmental scientist at Hungry Valley State Park.
All right, good evening, everybody. All right, well, once again, my name is Chris Hahn. I'm the acting environmental scientist for Hungry Valley State Vehicular Recreation Area in Gorman. We're an off-road vehicle park. We have about 20,000 acres. We're part of the OHMVR division, or Off-Highway Motor Vehicle division. And we basically run this off-road vehicle park for all the enthusiasts who ride motorcycles, ATVs, Jeeps, you name it. So tonight, just going to kind of talk about two items with kind of the same underlying theme, same person. The first is the history of state parks. We are celebrating our 150th anniversary this year, so I'm going to kind of tell you how that came about. And the second is kind of a little story we have at Hungry Valley and how we got our name. It used to be called Honey Valley and got it changed to Hungry Valley. So whether it's true or not, we don't know. But hey, it's a good story. So the underlying story of this, or the underlying connection to this, these two stories is Abraham Lincoln. He had a big part in the beginning, and in our visitor center we have a little saying, "We owe it all to Abe." So here we go. It all started back in about 1862. Captain and Jesse Fremont, two young aristocrats, they used to hold dinner parties. They'd invite artists, politicians, visionaries, you name it, people with lots of influence. So they'd give these dinner parties, and whoever showed up, showed up. And this is Jesse Fremont right there. She would kind of sit in the background, and all of a sudden she'd start up little conversations. And basically she was trying to facilitate these little conversations about protecting natural resources. These discussions kind of hatched the park's idea, and especially the protection of Yosemite Valley and the Mariposa Grove. So Captain Fremont had friends, and this is Captain Raymond. He came to California, heard about these dinner parties, attended them, and decided to visit Yosemite Valley, see what it was all about. What were they looking at? He fell in love with the area, just loved it, and couldn't believe that people were looking at logging and settling the area, basically making housing tracts out of the whole area. So he came back, and it inspired him to contact his local senator. So his local senator was John Kness of the state of California. Just happened to be a good friend of Captain Raymond. So around the same time, Galen Clark kind of settled into the area that is called Ahwahnee. Built himself a nice little cabin there, and basically hiked and went around the whole Yosemite Valley area, checking it out, finding out what was there, looking at it, loved the area. And he got word that the logging and the destruction of the natural resources was possible. So he began to write Mr. Kness, his local senator. He was trying to explain to him how special this area was and that the destruction should not happen, and that basically we should preserve this area for the rest of everybody's life. So basically all these items didn't fall on deaf ears. Senator Kness also believed in conserving the natural resources and believed that the people should be able to enjoy this area. So he got in contact with Captain Raymond and Galen Clark, and they began to draft legislation to protect and preserve Yosemite Valley and Mariposa Grove. After lobbying, and this took several years, they finally approved and passed and sent this act to President Abraham Lincoln for signature. So on June 30th, 1864, basically the first state park was established, Yosemite Valley and the Mariposa Grove. This act set aside this area for use of the people for recreation and their enjoyment. So finally, the act was accepted by Governor Low. That was the current governor of the state of California at that time. And basically, the first state park was established. So Galen Clark, loving the area, he stayed. He decided this was his house, this was his home. He wasn't going to go anywhere. And basically, he was protecting the area, interpreting the area, and giving talks and walks in the Yosemite Valley. Eventually, because he was there, loved the area, he became the first state park ranger in the state of California. So basically this year, we're commemorating 150 years due to the acts of these people. So we would like to say thanks to all that were involved. And we did so on June 30th of this year. They met up in the Mariposa Oak Grove, the Ahwahnee, and the Yosemite Valley, and looked at what they had created. So that's basically how state parks got started in a nutshell. There's obviously a lot more going on, but that's what happened. All right, now moving on, Hungry Valley. How did we get our name? Hungry Valley. So basically we're looking at more of a story that went on. So a little bit muddy, but hey, if you believe it, you believe it. It's a fun little story to believe. So once again, we owe it all to Abe. So in 1862, Abraham Lincoln signed the Homestead Act of 1862. It encouraged people to move west and start the basic settlements of the western areas. Basically, all they had to do was, for 160 acres, they could settle an area, improve the area, which meant small house, nothing very big, 120 square feet, and live there for 5 years. If they did this for a small fee, they would get to keep that land. So basically, people began to move into the area very slowly and settle the land. They saw this area as a new beginning, basically the land of milk and honey, and they tried their hand at basically farming, dry farming, and cattle raising. Well, as all of you know, rain's kind of scarce around this area, so not a whole lot of dry farming could go on. So as the settlers came in, times got harder, crops got smaller, fewer and fewer cattle could be in the area, and people started to go hungry. So after they'd come in this area, they called it Honey Valley because that's what they thought it would be, milk and honey. Started to go hungry, and then they dubbed it Hungry Valley. So eventually, the homesteaders left the area. There wasn't much here for them. So you move on. And if you did not keep up your homestead, basically the federal government would take it back. So the federal government started taking these lands back. And then those that were left, the state started buying up their land. And then after a while, people started coming through the area, the interstate, went right through, and then people would come up to recreate. Lots to do up here, lots of hiking. Go up to Piru Creek, go up to Fraser Mountain, all that was up here. Well, they also brought their OHVs and started riding in the Gorman area. That was all illegal. But basically, it was a free-for-all. If you had a homestead out there, you protected it. You fenced it off, you had your guns, you kept everybody out. But as time went on, it got harder and harder. So after a while, the state bought up the rest of the land and saw that it was being used as an off-road area, regulated it, and then became a state park. So that's how we got started. So here we are celebrating 150 years of state parks. And then we have a little story of how Hungry Valley got its name. I'd like to thank you this evening. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy the CalFest.